Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this presentation is titled 777 Flight Number 883 from Chicago O'Hare to Narita. Narita is the airport that serves Tokyo, and this happened in 11/18 of 2003. We have a suspicious package and are concerned it might be a bomb. Well, 2003, I'd been a captain on the 777 for just a year now. I was on the 777 for a total of 13 years before I retired. And I had been on about a year, and of course 2003 we all know is not that long after 9/11. So everybody's still on a bit of edge about security and stuff like that. And we had started our trip to Narita. I had 214,900 pounds of fuel on board, and it's going to be a 12-hour and 39-minute trip up over the poles. So we're heading on out. Of course, it's a winter-type day, and we're heading on pretty far north up over Canada. And funny thing about when you do these trips, these polar trips, is you can just watch civilization kind of move away. So we're climbing on out, and the flight attendants get up. It's safe for them to get up. I tell them that. No turbulence or anything that we know of, and they get up, and they're getting ready to do their service. And one of the flight attendants notices an unusual package that appears to be taped to a bulkhead back near the business class area. And she briefly asks anybody, it looks a little strange, she briefly asks anybody if they know about this package. Does it belong to anybody? And nobody around the area says it belongs to them. So I get a call from the purser, the chief flight attendant. Now, let me tell you, the flight attendants were extremely professional in the handling of this whole situation. I cannot praise them too much, how they handled this and the thoroughness of the report afterwards. So one of my co-pilots, and on a trip like this, it's me, the captain, and I've got 3 co-pilots, and we have what's known as the bunkies or the cruise brothers or the international relief pilots. I and my co-pilot go back on a break, and they come up and fly, and it's separated up so we get plenty of breaks, so we're well rested. And my co-pilot says, "Well, we got a problem back here. They've got a suspicious package." Now, I don't have a good picture of it, so I kind of put this together. It was a package like this, kind of a manila colored, and it had masking tape across it. And no, that forward bulkhead isn't brick, but it kind of looked sort of like this, and it looked like it was actually taped to that area. And the flight attendants said, initially, when they had done their safety checks and that, nobody had seen this package there. And you'll hear about that in a little bit later, why that was. So we're heading on up north. Nice thing about the 777 is we have all sorts of good communications. Of course, we have the normal VHF, very high frequency communications. We have HF communications, but we also have a very nice thing here is we have the SAT phone, satellite phone. And so I get on this and I call dispatch and I tell them the situation about a suspicious package, and I send my co-pilot, one of my co-pilots, back to kind of take a look at it and see what's going on. Okay, we're heading up north, and this kind of went on for a while. I get dispatch on the line. They bring up what we have as an emergency operations center. They bring them on board, and because it's a suspicious package, obviously the first thing you default to, especially if nobody identifies and says, "Yeah, that's my package," and it's this, that, or the other thing. You default to, well, we may have something we don't like here. It may be a bomb. So they get the federal bomb group on board out of Washington, D.C., and they link this all up. And the VP of Flight Operations, who I actually knew since we worked together with the Airline Pilots Association during the strike of 1985, Steve and I had known each other for a very long time and worked together on a number of things. But here's our little depiction. We're heading out of Chicago. The yellow arrow is about where I got the notification, and the green arrow shows we're headed up towards places that have fewer and fewer people. So part of the whole process in this, I've got a lot of fuel. I'm over my maximum landing weight, and if I'm going to put it down somewhere in Canada, first of all, we need to go to a place that has the correct facilities. I keep them advised of my fuel load, and of course, in the mind, and Steve was a 777 pilot also. He knows that means that it's going to take me a certain amount of time to dump unless I elect to do an emergency landing overweight. And then if you do that, you've got to have somebody inspect it before you can take off. So there's a lot of things going on, and we got the various people involved. Now, during the process with my first officer back there and the flight attendants, we had a number of air marshals on board. That was very typical of international flights in that time. And one of the air marshals, actually a couple of them, noticed the activity, and one of them came forward. I know who the air marshals are. The people on board are supposedly not supposed to know. It used to be that the air marshals were the one that were dressed in the nice suits, and we kind of complained about that because it was obvious to anybody who the air marshals were, because they were the ones that were really dressed up more than anybody else. So they got rid of it so they look like normal people and blend in. And they happened to, one of the guys saw what was going on. So we got him kind of in the loop with the flight attendants and my first officer, and they described the package. And we ended up, the flight attendants made an announcement, basically, does this belong to anybody? And they got no response. Now, part of the interesting thing is we're going to Narita, so you'd expect people to speak Japanese, and we have language flight attendants on board, and we had flight attendants who spoke Japanese. We also had flight attendants who spoke Mandarin. The only thing we did not have on board was a bunch of flight attendants or any flight attendant who spoke Korean. And this flight was going on to Incheon, Korea, as a tag on, and so we had a big contingency of Korean people who most of them did not speak English, and there was an issue of communication. So that was an issue that was brought up in the flight attendant's report, and my purser, the chief flight attendant, made a very detailed and well organized report. It was very professional, and it talked about the professionality of the flight attendants. So here we got the package. Well, I bring up the one air marshal who essentially had broken his cover to be involved. I bring him up into the cockpit, and we've got the FBI, the bomb squad, the federal bomb squad, everybody else on this call, and we have him talking to him about the situation with the package and what should be done. All right, as I said, we're heading farther and farther north, and interesting, the satellite phone should work, but I guess it's like all technology. I had a number of dropouts. We lost the call, and the communications was not very good, unfortunately, because we had to keep redialing him, and we had periods where we didn't have communication. But basically, he was talking to the federal bomb squad, describing the situation, and they finally decided, well, of course, you do the obvious thing. You check for anti-lift devices, and they checked for unusual odors or anything like that, and decided that, well, they wanted to have him cut into it. So we moved the passengers out of the way. We went back to the galley, and he opened one of the medical kits to get a pair of scissors out, and ended up cutting into the package. Before he went back, I told him, don't cut the green wire. No. A little bit of levity there, but he went back, and very quickly it became evident what exactly this was. It's one of these things where, we used an overabundance of caution, and we found out, talking to the flight attendants, that just before departure, shutting the door, and these times, of course, can get very, very busy. Somebody had reported the smell of vomit back in this area, and they brought some cleaning people on board. And we were dealing with last-minute rushing passengers, probably having to pull their bag off if they didn't make the flight, and a bunch of various last-minute things. And several cleaning people came on. They used some disinfectant powder. They couldn't spray anything because the passengers were on board, and I guess they're not allowed. But in the process, we suspect that one of the cleaning ladies left this package. And when they cut into the package, it was a bunch of purple gloves, obviously cleaning gloves, but they were in, in this little bound up package. I guess they have these kits that they take for this sort of thing. And they investigated it and found out that, yes, she had inadvertently left this on board, and that caused the confusion. That's why the flight attendants doing their safety checks hadn't previously seen it. Well, like I said, everybody handled this very well. And I especially commended the air marshals who got involved, and I thought, and I wrote them a letter of commendation, and got a nice response back for it also, because I felt it was above and beyond for him, this agent, to actually be willing to cut into the package. Well, we got that cleared up. It was the whole ordeal actually was about an hour and a half, going through this, talking with the various agencies, investigating it, looking at the package, trying to determine what it was. And finally, of course, they decided that it would be best to cut into it. But it was a long process, involved a lot of people, the Situation Room at United, and it was handled very professionally and very well. And we proceeded on to Narita. Fortunately, I didn't have to upset any passengers. The only thing they basically knew was we were asking about, an unidentified package that somebody may have left. And the people around it might have noticed the seriousness of the flight attendants and the people involved, but nobody ever really became aware that we might have had a situation, which is good, because people don't need to be upset unnecessarily. And of course, a situation like this, they can be. So that's my little story of my bomb scare on my international flight. I hope you found it interesting, enjoyable, and possibly even informative. So thanks for watching.